I didn't know you were coming, Lucas murmured, scratching the back of his neck awkwardly as Alpha Varlston observed from a distance in what he must have thought were subtle glances. Alpha Varlston had just announced to his pack that Neveah would be accompanying them, and Lucas would have the honor of serving as her mount. I didn't know either, Neveah replied, her lips twitching slightly. Despite the situation, she was amused by the father and son pair, most especially Alpha Varlston, who seemed keen on conjuring up a chemistry between them just by his staring. By the end of this trip, having you so close yet knowing we can never be, my heart will be broken into 1,000 pieces, Lucas pointed out, and Neveah chuckled quietly. I wish there was something I could do to make this easier for you, Neveah admitted apologetically. Neveah was relieved to see Lucas Varlston's stance had not changed due to the insistence of their parents. He had already accepted Neveah's rejection. Well, there is. It would be my honor to serve as your mount. That is, if you will permit it, of course, Lucas Varlston said hopefully. I think my father already gave his consent to that, Neveah replied with a shrug. Well, I'm not asking him. I'm asking you, Vea, Lucas Varlston replied seriously. Neveah was quiet for a moment. Since when had anyone cared to ask her permission for anything? Although she was Eclipse princess, every last detail of her life was determined by her father. Her likes, dislikes, the food she ate, the dresses she wore, the people she associated with. Everything. Lucas Varlston had come off as domineering and imposing in the beginning, but he was much different from what Neveah had thought him to be. These little unconscious acts from Lucas Varlston was precisely why he was so different from everyone else, and why Neveah was unwilling to do him any harm. Neveah sighed inaudibly as she nodded her consent. Well, it would be just as uncomfortable as a horse is. No hassle, Neveah said with a shrug. I'm hurt you think I'm some thin and bony wolf, Vea. With this build? My wolf is all muscles. You'll see, Lucas Varlston said, laughing. I'll just take your word for it then, Neveah replied with a shrug, as she took a step back and to let Lucas Varlston take his wolf form. The sound of bones shifting and reforming came first, and soon a large blonde wolf was standing in the exact spot where Lucas Varlston had been standing. Neveah passed a glance back at the Eclipse Palace to see her father standing right there, and just as she expected, his gaze was fixed on her. Neveah sighed quietly. It was time for the Eclipse Alphas to move out, and she walked up to Lucas's wolf, who waited, his lips stretched in a lopsided wolf grin, believing Neveah was impressed by his muscular build and large wolf. My wolf is almost twice your size, pup, Neveah thought, smirking, as Lucas lowered his height so she could comfortably get on his back. Neveah passed one final glance at the Eclipse Palace and came to a decision. This time, I will never return here, Neveah decided, as Lucas shot off into the woods. The trip to Mount Vernon was short and pleasant. Neveah had spent most of the time in comfortable silence with Lucas, and by nightfall, they had arrived. Mount Vernon was an impressive mountain and the designated location for the Alpha Summit. This was because the blood oath of the first unified alliance of the Eclipse domain had taken place in Mount Vernon. The Alpha Summit, as it was called, was a convention of all the alphas of the Eclipse domain that took place every decade. It began with the royal ball at the Eclipse Palace, after which the Eclipse alphas would proceed to Mount Vernon. It was a convention with the purpose of taking collective decisions on the challenges faced by the domain, under the supervision of the Alpha King. Topics on territory distinctions, population control, mating games, discords between packs, and the likes would be discussed at the Alpha Summit. As her father had said, the Alpha Summit was a place for leaders and warriors, as it was not uncommon for fights to break out and challenges to be thrown, leading to bloodshed. For the duration of their stay on Mount Vernon, each Eclipse pack had a lodge they would reside in a part of the mountain reserved only for that pack. The mountain was large enough, and the lodges were spread all throughout in a manner that ensured the different packs did not have to come in contact with each other, unless they wanted to. Neveah was to reside with the Eclipse hunt till the end of the Alpha Summit, since she had only come to tend to Luna Colleen. And for the first few days at least, Neveah knew she would not have to deal with her family, and the relief it brought to Neveah's heart was so great she hoped it would last. Neveah got off Lucas's back and turned around to him. "Thank you, Lucas. I will head off with the Eclipse hunt first. Get some rest. I will find you tomorrow," Neveah said to the blonde wolf. Lucas nodded his large wolf head before he bounded off into the woods to change back into his human form. "Veah, dear child, come," Luna Colleen called to Neveah, and Neveah headed over to her. "How are you doing, Aunt Colleen?" Neveah asked in concern, and Luna Colleen shook her head slightly. "I worry, Veah. Now that we know of the poison, is it okay to leave it unattended this long? If we delay..." Luna Colleen trailed off in a low whisper, not daring to continue, as Alpha Dane headed over from where he conversed with his beta, most likely feeling his mate's distress. Neutralizing the moon whisper is not a process that can be hurried. The Alpha Summit begins on the morrow and lasts an entire month. I have come along with all I shall need. Within the next few days, I will do my best. Rest assured, your pups will be safe, Neveah promised. "Thank you, Veah. I feel reassured with you here," Luna Colleen said in a relieved tone. "For tonight, I will brew you a potion that can help you calm. You will need the calm," Neveah added, as she turned to Alpha Dane. "The Eclipse hunt resides not too far from here. I'll show the way," Alpha Dane said, as he led the way through the forest. "Veah, darling, how did you sleep?" Luna Colleen asked in her familiar, doting tone, as Neveah emerged from her room. They had only arrived at Mount Vernon the previous night, and Alpha Dane had escorted them to a mountain range with about 10 small cottages built from wood. These were the lodgings prepared especially for the Alpha's summit, and they were renovated every decade in preparation for the arrival of the Alphas. The party from Eclipse Hunt numbered to a total of 20 people, including Alpha Dane, Luna Colleen, and Alpha Dane's beta. The rest were warrior wolves and a few elders of the Eclipse Hunt pack. Neveah had been momentarily concerned at the thought of sharing a cottage with people she was not familiar with, as she had not associated with the wolves from Eclipse Hunt at all. However, Neveah had been surprised to see Alpha Dane and Luna Colleen had set her up to share the Alpha's cottage with them. There were only 2 rooms in the cozy little cottage, and while Alpha Dane and Luna Colleen shared a room, Neveah got her own room to herself.
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.